Stash Wyslouch here. Welcome to Quick Tips. I'm offering private lessons. If you want to get better at the guitar, send me an email. If you appreciate these lesson videos, please become a patron on my Patreon page. You get access to supplemental materials, Patreon exclusive workshops, and much more. Today I want to talk about something that I've addressed indirectly in a few different quick tips, namely approach tones. And I want to give you a system to create your own approach tone exercises. So a lot of times melodies focus around target notes. For example, chord tones. You're on an A7 chord and the melody note is a C sharp. Approach tones are a way to still have that target note in view, but then give you some shape and nice variation possibilities. Understanding a few things about approach tones will also give you some very nice and necessary tools to understand and analyze solos in the bluegrass and jazz language, which has a lot of single line playing. So there's three parameters, and these are the same parameters that I've used in the past for lessons on bass runs. The parameters are duration, direction, and note choice. The first parameter, duration. With how many approach notes will you approach the target note? So right now, let's just give it a number, 3. Direction. Are you going to approach the note from above or below, or both? If you approach from both above and below, sometimes it's called an enclosure. You're enclosing the note from both directions. So let's say right now we'll approach from below. So we have duration, 3 notes, direction from below. The last parameter, note choice. And I'm just going to offer two note choices today. Chromatic, approaching the note in a sequence of half steps, or diatonic, approaching the note with notes that are within the scale, within the key that you're in. For this exercise, let's do chromatic. So we've got duration, 3 notes, direction from below. We've got note choice, chromatic. So let's imagine the only context we have is we're told to create a melody on the chord A7. So you could say things that'll definitely sound good and consonant would be the 4 chord tones in A7, A, C sharp, E, and G. Using our parameter of approach notes with duration, direction, and note choice, we have quite a few ways to vary these melodies. Let's also say that the chord tones have to land on a strong beat, not on the and, for now. So we can make an exercise, and the goal is to see the chord tone ahead of time and then approach it with our little algorithm of approach notes. So we could start with the root note. 1, 2, 3. So one thing to note is, where does the approach note sequence have to begin? It has to begin 1.5 beats before the strong beat. So if we want to land on beat 1, it has to start on the and of 3. 1, 2, 3, and. Now let's make a structural exercise. Take an arpeggio, an A7 arpeggio in a position, let's say 2E, and approach each note in that position 3 notes from below chromatically so that a chord tone lands on a strong beat. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. Bring it down. Still approaching from below chromatically. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. Now you'll notice my hands jumping all over the neck. But every strong tone I hit was in the exact location prescribed by arpeggio 2E. So this is also a good way to start experimenting with new fingerings to access a position you know and love. So you can kind of pick from these parameters at random and create your own exercises. But something that could be interesting is going into a solo or a melody that you like and seeing what kind of approach tones they use, analyze it with our algorithm, and then put it to your own exercise. So take, for example, this little bit of a Chick Corea solo from the tune Captain Marvel. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we start on a B minor chord, doing some nice structures. And then it goes to an F sharp chord. Boom. What do we have there? Duration, 4 notes. Direction, from above. Note choice, chromatic. So that little approach thing approached the root of an F sharp minor chord and landed on it right on a strong beat with 4 notes from above. So despite the fact that you're on an F sharp minor chord and the first note of the bar is the major third, an A sharp, it's really just part of an approach note sequence which lands on a nice root note. Now what I do, I take that one little bit, 4 notes from above chromatically, and apply it to my own situation. So I could just start with an arpeggio in space. Approach every note from above, 4 notes chromatically. Let's do A7. Etc. Next, you could do it through a series of chord changes and decide you're only going to approach the root of different chords. It could be something as simple as Blue Ridge Cabin Home. 1, 4, 5, 1 in the key of G for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Do the same thing off the thirds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Between scale motion, arpeggio motion, and approach notes, you can already get some pretty creative lines, and I definitely suggest just sort of slowly, intellectually improvising and see if you can incorporate some little approach, or if you're doing from both directions, enclosure things. So an enclosure could be like 2 notes from above and 1 below, chromatically. You could also enclose diatonically. So for example, if you're on a D7 chord and you're in the key of G, so the diatonic notes would pertain to the key of G, but in D7. So if you're familiar with modes, it could be like D mixolydian. Approach 1 note below and 1 note above diatonically. Something like that. Now if you go back and you combine this with something like, for example, Quick Tip 95, where we talked about all those melodic structures, you get some really interesting shapes. So for example, I could approach the third of a G7 chord from 4 notes above chromatically, and then launch into one of the structures, like a 7th chord going up. Very cool. Combine that with a few other structures as you go, you get some really interesting lines. Chromatic approach, structure, structure, structure. Nice. My best suggestion would be to find some solo you like, maybe in the new grass or swing or jazz idiom and try and transcribe 4 bars and see if you could find an algorithm, an approach note algorithm within there. I can almost guarantee you will. And then apply it to whatever tune you're doing, just looking at the tune strictly as chord changes. For more exercises and a supplemental workshop and PDFs on this, make sure to become a patron on my Patreon page. Thanks so much for subscribing, and we'll see you next time.